Welcome back to the Midnight Frequency, supported by Aurora Quantum. Tonight, we're going to take a journey into the everyday. You know, the objects around us, the ones we don't even think twice about. From the moment we wake up to the second we go to sleep, we interact with these objects every day. But how often do we really stop and think about their stories? Their mysteries? The toaster, the spoon, the alarm clock. It sounds ordinary, right? But trust me, there's so much more to these simple things that meets the eye. Tonight, we're uncovering some of the hidden stories behind the objects we use every day, because sometimes, the simplest things have the most fascinating histories. Let's start with a classic, the toothbrush. It's one of those items that's so embedded in our daily routines that we rarely even think about it. But have you ever wondered how the toothbrush came to be? Believe it or not, the origins of the toothbrush are pretty fascinating, and not quite as neat and clean as you might expect. The earliest version of the toothbrush dates back to ancient civilizations. The Egyptians, around 3000 BC, are believed to have used twigs or sticks from certain trees as their toothbrushes. They would chew on the end of these twigs until the fibers frayed, creating a primitive brush. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think I'd want to chew on a stick from a tree to clean my teeth. But hey, it worked back then. Fast forward a few thousand years to the 15th century, when the Chinese introduced bristle toothbrushes. They were made from animal hair, often from pigs, and were mounted onto bamboo or bone handles. Can you imagine using a pig hair toothbrush? The first modern toothbrush as we know it, with nylon bristles, didn't appear until the 1930s. A far cry from those primitive twigs, huh? Next, let's talk about something that most of us probably take for granted, the paperclip. It's a little metal device that holds together our stacks of paper, but there's more to it than that. Have you ever wondered who invented the paperclip? How did such a simple object come to be? The paperclip, in its modern form, was patented by a Norwegian inventor named Johan Voller in 1899. But, and here's the twist, the paperclip existed long before that. In fact, people had been using variations of paperclips for centuries, but Voller's design became the most widely recognized. Interestingly, though, his patent wasn't the first, and his design wasn't the one that took off. There were other designs before his that were actually more effective. One of the most interesting things about the paperclip is that its design has remained largely unchanged for over 100 years. Think about it, it's just a little piece of wire, bent into a specific shape, that's been doing its job without any need for improvement. There's something almost magical about how such a simple object can continue to serve us so well without any real change over the years. Now, let's dive into another office essential, the stapler. Sure, we use it to bind our papers together, but have you ever thought about the mechanics of the stapler, or how it came to be? The first stapler was created in the 18th century for the French King Louis XV. It wasn't quite the stapler we know today, but a device designed to fasten pieces of paper together with a single metal clasp. The design was so ornate that each stapler was personalized for the royal family. Talk about a high-end paperclip. As staplers evolved, they became simpler and more efficient, but the fundamental function stayed the same. In fact, the stapler is such an essential tool that, despite the rise of digital technology, we still rely on it today. How many times have you used a stapler without thinking twice about it? It's a tool that quietly does its job, but there's something oddly satisfying about the way a stapler works, like a perfect, synchronized click that brings order to chaos. Okay, let's take a quick break from office supplies and talk about something that might make your evening a little more interesting, the siphon. You know, the one that creates fizzy, carbonated drinks like soda, or even used to be part of the cocktail making process. What's the story behind this bubbly little tool? The siphon dates back to the 19th century, and it's a simple but ingenious device that carbonates liquids by forcing CO2 gas into a liquid. While we know it today mainly as a way to carbonate water, it was originally used in bars and soda fountains to create fizzy drinks on the spot. But the siphon had another purpose that not many people know about. In the 1930s, it became a staple in cocktail culture. Bartenders would use siphons to create fizzy cocktails and sodas. And it wasn't just for soda, carbonated cocktails were a hit. Imagine sipping on a fizzy gin and tonic in a glamorous 1930s bar. Now, let's talk about a modern-day miracle, the remote control. The object that makes us feel like we have absolute power over our entertainment. But where did the remote control come from? How did we go from having to get up to change the channel to controlling everything from the comfort of our couch? The first remote control, called the Zapper, was created in 1950 by a man named Robert Adler. It was revolutionary. Before then, you had to physically get up and twist a dial or turn a knob to change the channel. But with the remote, you could just sit back and relax. Over the decades, remote controls evolved from simple devices that changed channels to powerful gadgets that control everything from TVs to sound systems, even lights and smart home devices. The coolest part? The remote control is still one of the most underappreciated inventions of all time. Think about it. How often do you just pick up your remote without thinking? It's one of those items that has completely changed the way we interact with the world around us, but we hardly notice its impact. So, the next time you pick up a toothbrush, a paperclip, or even a remote control, remember, these seemingly insignificant objects have stories to tell. They're filled with history, mystery, and sometimes a little magic. We might take them for granted now, but each one of them has had a role to play in shaping the world we live in today. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Midnight Frequency. Until next time, keep your eyes open for the little mysteries that hide in plain sight. Who knows what secrets the everyday objects around you are keeping?